Thomas Paine, Sam Adams, Benjamin Franklin. These men spoke up for what they thought was right. From their courage came such documents as the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States. From their willingness to speak what was sometimes unpopular but right, we enjoy such liberties as freedom of speech, the right to keep and bear arms, and freedom of religion. There are those who still wish to oppress our freedoms, and there are still patriots willing to stand up and defend life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Men like Zeb Bell, who honor our founding fathers and what they stood for. It's now time for Zeb at the ranch, speaking up and defending your freedoms. Brought to you by Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers and all of the other great advertisers on the program. And now, Zeb Bell.
Oh, you have got to hear this. This is the ultimate story to wrap up the end of the year. Did you hear about the elderly man in Alabama? He took down his rebel flag, which you can't buy on eBay anymore, and he peeled off the NRA sticker off the front door. He disconnected his home alarm system and quit the unhelpful neighborhood watch program. He bought 2 Pakistani flags and put one at each corner of his front yard. Then he purchased the black flag of ISIS, which you can buy on eBay, and put it in the center of his yard. Now the local police, sheriff, FBI, CIA, NSA, Homeland Security, Secret Service, and other agencies are watching his house 24/7, 365. And this elderly man said, I've never felt safer. And he said he's saving $70 a month. Good morning, everybody. Here comes Kate Smith, and God bless America. Followed by a patriot with our Pledge of Allegiance. Good morning. Thank you very much, Kate Smith, and God bless America. I certainly hope he will again. Welcome to Zeb at the Ranch. I'm Zeb Bell with our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you, along with some of our great advertisers like Western Way Services, always at your disposal. Call and get on the route service today at 734-6969. Happy New Year, everybody. And we're going to have quite a program on New Year's today at the last hour. Hey, it's time for, it's time for our pledge. I almost forgot. Good morning. Who's the pledge today?
Good morning, young man.
Well, thank you. And what a fitting person to do the pledge for the last time this year on my program. Go ahead, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
God bless you, Rotten, and your lovely wife. Have a wonderful New Year's, please.
You too, young'un.
All right, thank you, sir. Very nice people right there. It's time for the weather, and it's brought to you by Cheney Flooring and Home Design, 1228 Oakley Avenue in Burley. Look for the blue door. And all your carpet and flooring, kitchen construction, home decor items, whatever you need to make your house a home, and they are so knowledgeable as to how to just make everything look great inside your home. Call them today or stop in, 678-6945, Cheney Flooring and Home Design in Burley. Here's Gina with the weather.
Here's your weather for this December 29th as we are making our way closer to 2016. We are expecting some snow showers off and on for today, slightly on the breezy side. Winds out of the southwest, right around 9 miles an hour. Expect a high of 21 tonight, low of 12. Tomorrow, cloudy conditions, high of 21 with an overnight low of 9. Looking at partly cloudy conditions for New Year's Eve day, high of 16 with an overnight low of 8. 0. It's going to be cold. And then for New Year's Day itself, how about partly cloudy and 14? That's your weather for Zebeth Duran.
Thank you very much, Gina. Great job. Thank you very much. Brought to you by Cheney Flooring and Home Design at 1228 Oakley Avenue in Burley. Look for the blue door, and they wish you and yours a very happy New Year. By the way, no sale. Let me underline that word again. No sale this week at the Burley Livestock Sale Yard, 1100 Occidental Avenue in Burley. They'll have a sale next week. You better believe it. Merv May, Cade Rocky, and Lance Udy all wish you and yours a very happy New Year from the Burley Livestock Sale Yard. Calls are welcome and appreciated. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. In just a moment, I have got some stories on here this morning that you're not going to believe. Honestly, they're beyond the realm of reason and sanity, and we're going to talk about those in a moment, so stand by. One about a 67-year-old man, disabled, in a wheelchair, and he might be evicted for protecting himself. Stand by for that. Don't forget Daryl's Cleaners at 1223 Albion Avenue in Burley. I know, at Christmas dinner, Aunt Martha came over and she spilled the cranberry sauce. Great big stain right in the middle of the tablecloth. And then Uncle Albert, he tipped over the gravy, and oh my goodness, your tablecloth looked like an Appaloosa. Well, you can get it cleaned at Daryl's Cleaners, 1223 Albion Avenue in Burley. Kevin and Cindy there to help you with all your dry cleaning needs at Daryl's Cleaners. You stop in and see them today. One more time, too, for this year, I want to say thank you to SafeLink Internet. And the number to call to get on their program, Idaho's number one choice for wireless internet, 18 years and counting, 677-8000. Free installation, first month free. My goodness, no contract options. Can I say that again without biting my tongue? No, I can't. No contract options, no credit checks, unlimited data. SafeLink Internet, 677-8000. Really good people. All right, now it's your turn. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Here's this man, 67 years old, a year younger than me, and he's disabled in a wheelchair. And an intruder breaks in at his Rockland, Maine apartment in September. And he said that's enough. He was targeted 5 times with burglaries. So he purchased a handgun. And this gentleman had not purchased the gun more than 12 hours before. When a guy broke into his house again during the evening hours and was going from the kitchen into the living room, and this intruder was sifting through the prescription pills that this 67-year-old disabled man had. So Mr. Lembo, that was his name, Harvey Lembo, got out of bed, had his pistol in hand, and said, "Stop, don't move, I'm going to call 911. Well, the intruder did not listen to Mr. Lembo, and he started to run out the hallway, and I don't blame Mr. Lembo at all. He fired his gun, and he hit the dude. Yes, sirree, right in the shoulder. Well, the guy got away, and he ran and finally was caught by authorities a short time later in a wooded area, and was taken into police custody after a brief struggle and was charged with burglary and probation violation. Oh, yeah, he was a real good guy. Well, then Stanford Management Company that had rented the apartment to Mr. Lembo called him up and said, you're out of a home. You got to get out. You're being evicted because you can't have a gun in your possession for self-defense. What? You know, this just shows the idiocy and incompetency of the way America's going. Oh, I got other stories this morning. They're as dumb or dumber than this one. Well, the National Rifle Association gave a lot of praise to Mr. Lembo's lawsuit. He's suing now the renting association for his home, and he's taken action to stand up for his constitutional right to bear arms. And as was stated by John Hohenwarder with the NRA, self-defense is a fundamental God-given right that belongs to every law-abiding American, no matter their tax bracket, their zip code, or their street address. And the management company that told Mr. Lembo he was being evicted, they didn't respond to inquiries about coming on the newspapers locally and the local TV stations. They were cowardly, and they ran and hid. Can you imagine? Now, today, you can't protect yourself in your own home. You got a jerk that is pilfering through your medications, robbing you, and in the sanctity and safety of your own home, and Mr. Lembo had every right to shoot, and he did, and he wounded the guy. But now, the renting association says, you're out of here. This is insane that we can't protect ourselves anymore. What are your thoughts? Give me a call at 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Come on, give me a call. While I'm waiting for your calls on this story, my goodness, I can't believe where we're headed in this country, and I've got other stories to prove that this hour, too. Ramsey Heating and Electric at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley. The number to call, 678-0459. They're open 7:30 in the morning and until 5 o'clock in the afternoon, Monday through Friday. Caller, I'll be right there. Always where they provide warm winters and cool summers. They are so great with all your heating and electrical needs. Ramsey Heating and Electric, 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley, wishing you and yours a very happy New Year. Stand by, caller. I'll be right there. Also, wishing you a very happy New Year, and what a great way to celebrate the New Year by stopping into America's Diner, Denny's Restaurant at 611 Overland in Burley or 291 Pole Line in Twin Falls. Maybe you're going in for breakfast. Maybe you're going in for lunch or dinner. Maybe you're going in late at night. Whatever, the food is great, and the service is fantastic. You're going to love the menu choices. I guarantee it. At Denny's Restaurant, America's Diner at 611 Overland in Burley and 291 Pole Line Road in Twin Falls. Caller, thank you for your call. Good morning.
Good morning, Zeb. You know, that fella, if I could, I'd have him come down here and move in with me, and I'd be dang good. I'm sure no one's going to break into my house.
You know, isn't this ridiculous that in this day and age now, the innocent trying to protect themselves and their surroundings and their environment are actually turned into the guilty, and now this man might become homeless?
Yeah, it's pretty sad. Like I said, in times like this, I'm a firm believer in do what you can with what you got, and then you with your predicament, you know, without the use of your legs, you've managed to do really well. And for somebody who's wheelchair bound, to find somebody that, like I said, if I could, I'd have him move in with me and my wife and my daughter, and that's one of the best ways to have home protection devices, someone that can protect your home while you're not home.
Amen. I just feel so sad for this man.
I do too. It's a terrible thing that he can't even protect himself the best way he can. I mean, physically he can't do much else.
Yeah, and you know, I'm going to try. I have made a notation on here. I'm going to try to get the hold of Mr. Lembo. I think that's his name. What is it? It's Lembo. Pardon me, Lembo. And I'm going to try to reach him and try to get him on the program this next week and have him discuss this with us, because anything I can do through this program, I don't know what it's going to be until I talk to him, but we're going to try to help him because this is asinine.
What state's he in again?
He is in, let me hold on here just for a second. Rockland, Maine.
Well, the Eastern Seaboard, there's your answer right there for a lot of that.
Could be. God bless you. And
anyway, talk to you later.
You bet. Happy New Year to you. Thank you very much. Calls welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. What do you think about this? I mean, my goodness. You know, you're laying in bed sleeping, and all of a sudden you hear a noise. You wake up, and there's a guy going from one room to the other robbing you. You tell him to stop so the authorities can come over there and arrest him. He runs. You doggone right I'd pull the trigger. And this man might end up homeless. Where is the fairness? Don't forget Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation with Nick and the whole crew of great, very knowledgeable physical therapists at 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley. And they know all the sports medicine, all the exercises. They've got the only hydrotherapy pool in the area right there. They can help you get back to being and feeling like you. All you have to do to make an appointment is call 678-1191, 678-1191. Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation. You get a hold of them today. By the way, a gentleman that you know very well, I'm sure, and that's Colonel Dale. He wants to wish you and yours a very happy new year. And if you're looking for books or gifts or jewelry, believe me, thousands and thousands of books. You have to look no longer because you stop in at 222 West 11th Street in Burley. They've got everything over there. And Colonel Dale and his entire staff at the Book Plaza want to wish you and yours a very happy new year. Really nice people. All right, your turn, 436. Come on, somebody else. Don't you feel that this warrants a call in your opinion on this? My goodness, this man might lose his home, might lose his dwelling for nothing more than protecting himself. Oh, okay, I got to hit this one. This story is so unbelievable, but it's starting up in New York State and primarily in New York City. And this just shows you how warped and out of touch with reality our nation is becoming. In the catering to the gays, lesbians, and in this story, the transgenders. You are not going to believe this, but right now, New York can fine you, remember that word, fine you, $250,000 if you misgender someone. Let me soak that in for a moment. Think about it. You go to New York. Oh, there's a bunch of weirdos back there. You go to New York, and you walk into a store, and you say to the person behind the counter what you need, and then all of a sudden you say, "Thank you, ma'am." Well, as it turns out, it may not be a ma'am, but it might be a sir, thinking that it's a sir, but it's actually well, whatever. You know the story. But calling a person she could, or saying ma'am to a person, could cost you $250,000 fine in New York City under a new civil rights guideline published just before Christmas, which bans the misgendering of certain individuals. Oh, I've never heard of anything so stupid in my life. New York officials claim the new policy makes it the most aggressive city in the country in terms of, listen to this, protecting the rights of the transgendered. Oh, boy. Let's break this down. Now, if you refer to a person by something other than their chosen $1,000. If you refuse to call a person by their chosen pronoun, that's the key word, chosen. It may not be what they are, but that's what they choose to be. Refusing to call a person by their chosen pronoun, he or she, you might be up for a $250,000 fine. And requiring a person to legally change their name before using their preferred alternative. For example, company may not insist on calling an employee John, if he prefers Jane, even if John is his legal name. Are you with me on this? This is so muddy, so murky, and so stupid. Now, the policy requires all covered entities to let people use, oh, this is disgusting. If you got little kids in the room, tell them to go play in the other room for a moment. This is so repulsive, I don't want them to hear this and ask you questions. Are they out of the room? Okay, good. The new policy requires all covered entities to let people use a bathroom and locker room consistent with their chosen gender identity, regardless of their sex assigned at birth, anatomy, medical history, appearance, or the sex indicated on their identification. Oh, this is insanity. So in other words, he's or she's or it's can go into any locker room they want to or bathroom, and we, the normal people, can't do a thing about it. Nothing. The policy explicitly allows transgender individuals to use bathrooms of either gender, though the right is not given to others. You've got to call me. You got to tell me what your thoughts are. And you know what? It's coming here. It's coming here with the idiocy of some school boards, the idiocy of some cities. Oh, my goodness. Please call me, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Oh, boy. Don't forget Barry Equipment and Rental. And they're located in 3 locations, actually. Addison Avenue West in Twin Falls, South Lincoln and Jerome, and 159 West Highway 30 in Burley. You know, whether you need a Bobcat skid steer loader, or whether you need a Coyote tractor, or the big Doosan loaders, whatever your equipment needs are, whether you're leasing or buying, they have all the equipment for you to get the job done right. Like I said, easy to work with, and they know all the different programs of finance, etc. All you have to do is get a hold of them today at Twin Falls, Jerome, and 159 West Highway in Burley. The best Barry Equipment and Rental. Wishing you and yours a very happy New Year. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, sir.
You know, I'm glad you called, Doug. Boy, calm me down. This is incompetency and idiocy at its worst.
It is. It really is. And I found a website and got a video on there describing the left and the right. And the left does what feels good. Yep. The right does what is good.
Yep. Yep. Now let me
does good, yeah.
Yeah, it's such the left, and if you're a member of the left out there in the audience, I pity you. And I feel sorry for you because of your lack of morality and your lack of goodness. I do. I really do. Listen to this next paragraph. I want to read this to you.
Okay.
Other aspects of this policy include a ban on gender-specific dress codes, such as compelling men to wear a tie at a restaurant, and a requirement that company health plans, listen to this carefully, company health plans that you and I and other people pay for cover gender transition and gender affirming care, such as hormone treatments, voice training, and surgery. The law defines such treatments as necessary and life-saving. I throw my hands up in the air in complete disgust. What are your thoughts?
Necessary and life-saving. That right there just makes me want to throw up. Who in the heck in their right mind thinks if you're a male and you want to dress as a female and you want your voice to be higher, somebody has to pay for that for you, so it'll save your life.
Can you imagine what this is going to do to healthcare plans at businesses all over the United States? And the revolt, and I'll use that word, that should occur with people that are normal, absolutely throwing their hands up in the air and saying, wait a minute, I'm not going to pay a higher premium for these perverts to get life-saving and so-called necessary treatment for voice training and hormone treatments. This is completely ridiculous.
It is. It really is. It's, well, I personally don't want to be in their shoes when they stand before the Maker and have to explain why they're doing all this stuff that they're doing.
Yeah, but you know something, Doug? Wait a minute. I'm going to stop you right there. I'm going to say this, and I think you'll agree with me. You and I, the churches, ministers, schools, people in leadership, we've allowed this to happen because we've let common sense get put under the bus.
Exactly. And for evil to succeed is good people to do nothing.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. But how would you like...
That's it right in a nutshell.
How would you like to have a Blue Cross health insurance program, and all of a sudden your agent calls you someday this next year and says, we've got to alter your premium and we got to jack it up about $100 a month. Why? What happened? Well, we now have to accept the coverage of transgender transition and gender-affirming care, such as hormone treatments, voice training, and surgery, and you have to pay for it. Oh, my gosh, you have seen the car hit the wall.
Exactly. And that's when I'd say, well, then those guys that want it, let them pay for it. This is where personal responsibility is being thrown out the window on the backs of responsible people.
Yeah, but you know, it's already started somewhat, Doug, in the prison system. We've seen a couple of cases, you know, where they've demanded and were confirmed with the money for these sexual transitions of gender identity, and we, the taxpayers, have paid for it. But now with New York and this imbecile, Bill de Blasio, the mayor of New York City, signing on to this type of thing, you can be walking down the street, literally, and you can be in New York City and you might be sightseeing and somebody steps in front of you and you say, "Excuse me, ma'am," and bingo, if it's not a ma'am, you could end up possibly going to court and be fined.
I know, and that's utterly ridiculous. It's unfortunately, it is so ridiculous, it's laughable. Who in their right mind come up with this idea?
Wait a minute. That's just the whole gist of the problem. It's the liberal left, and they're not in their right mind. They are not in a mind of decency or morality. And as far as I'm concerned, and you know me, I'm going to say it like it is, this proves that America is on the road to hell.
Exactly. What does it say in the Bible? What's right is wrong, and what's wrong will be right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's in the end times. So.
Wow. I mean, just sit and meditate about this a little bit and think of all the ramifications and the repercussions that could happen if this thing is unleashed on the entire United States. And we've already seen some of this try to be introduced into various towns, like Pocatello accepted it, and also some of the school systems. Doug, I'm telling you, this is really serious.
It is serious, you know. And I remember when I was in high school, us boys would just dream of going into the girls' locker room. And somebody's devised a plan to make it possible.
Oh, you know what's going to happen? There's going to be so many lawsuits, and there's going to be so many perverts out there use and utilize this law to their advantage, and there's going to be assaults. There's going to be everything on this. Our society is absolutely going to, like I said, hell in a handbasket.
Yeah, and to all the grandfathers and the fathers out there that have daughters that's coming up into school age where they have locker rooms, they're going to go in and shower at sports and stuff like this. Are you guys going to stand by and allow the school board to tell you you've got to let this guy in the locker room with them to shower because he feels like a girl?
You know,
are you going to stand by?
This kind of a story makes me feel like I've been rolling outside in the dirt. It makes you feel dirty just to talk about it with these perverts, these absolute perverts that are changing our society with a total immorality. Doug, God bless you. Thank you for your call.
And, you know, just leaving on one little note, this is bovine droppings is all it is.
Yep. I can't add more to it. Thank you, Doug. Appreciate it.
God bless.
God bless you. Come on, folks. Call. This is going to happen here. You can bet on it. Has to some degree already. This is insane. And why it happens is because we don't stand up and say no. We actually are at fault because we've sat back and not said, enough of this garbage. You people that have a mind of a piece of dirt that are these transgenders and all these demands, hit the road and don't let the door hit you in the backside on the way out. My goodness, this is repulsive. Caller, I'll be right there. Don't forget our lovely doctor, Christine Pickup, Doctor of Audiology at Mount Harrison Audiology. And I really highly suggest you call 312-0957. Make an appointment for a hearing screening going into the new year. If you're having hearing problems, she can and will help. Don't forget Mount Harrison Audiology, right across from the Minidoka Hospital Emergency Room, and the number 312-0957. Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids, wishing you a very happy new year. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Morning, Jeff. This topic you're talking about right now, I have a 2-year-old. She's turning 2 here on the 8th. A wonderful, beautiful little girl. And I have 2 boys. One's 14 and one's 10. And get right down to it, they mean the world to me. And to have some pervert from either gender, either or, hurt them in any way, shape, or fashion, would take every ounce of strength that I have to not grab them by around the neck and cut short their air supply for a long period of time.
Wait a minute. Here's the thing.
And that goes for any young woman or any young man that doesn't belong to me either. It scars them for life, not just for a little while. I know somebody who was abused when she was younger, and she's older now, but it still scars her for life. She's very mistrusting because of it.
Yeah. Let me jump in here for a minute and say this. What this is going to do, if this permeates itself like a cancer all across our country, as a parent, no parent in their right mind would let their little girl and little boy go into a public restroom facility unattended. You can't take the chance.
Not anymore. And when it comes to this area, and I'm a young fellow, but when it comes to this area, mark my words, it will come. And when it does, I pray that everybody from, doesn't matter what school, county your kids go to, we all stand together as one, because this is our state. And we go to wherever it may be, and we protest, and we stand up for what is right and what is true for the safety of our kids, and not just get along to get along. I
agree with you. Thank you so much, and Happy New Year. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah.
This kind of asinine stupidity of affording, giving, and promoting rights to a special perverted segment, I want to say that again, perverted segment of our society, endangers everyone. It endangers everyone that is normal in our society and puts normalcy at risk of complete disaster in our society. I just can't imagine. I shook my head. I'm so much in dismay of what's going on in this country. We have turned into a godless society. We really have. God doesn't make mistakes. Never has. Never will. And these perverts are turning a moral society on its head. Unbelievable. $250,000 fine if you misgender someone. All right, give me a call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. What happened to a society? Come on, call. What's the matter, folks? Don't be intimidated by this. You need to speak out. What happened to a society where men are men, women are women, and get back to the respect of God's choice? Get back to what is right, wrong is wrong, and wrong is punished. What happened to our society on those? It's simple. It's really not that hard. There is a right. There is a wrong. And if you continue to do wrong, you will be punished. Not anymore. Not anymore. Calls welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Give me a call, please. Oh, by the way, that punk teenager, and I'm so glad this happened. I mean, this just made me, if you'd have been in my living room at 10 to 4 this morning, of course, nobody wants to be in anybody's living room at 10 to 4 in the morning, you would have heard a great big, yeah, buddy, when I heard that this punk teenager, this 18-year-old worthless punk, and his mother were caught down in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico. He, this punk, had killed 4 people while he was drunk and injured many others. But he got off in the courts because of a defense called affluenza. He was so filthy rich, supposedly he didn't know right from wrong. And then he was put out, supposedly, to the custody of his parents in his home on probation, which was completely stupid. And him and his mom skipped the country and went to Mexico. Well, now it looks like, and I hope the judge that looks at this case when he stands before the court will look at this punk and put him in the big boys' prison for a minimum of 10 years. But it doesn't end there. Mommy needs to serve a lot of time too. And just because you have a checkbook with a lot of zeros in it doesn't mean that you can supersede the law or be better or treated better than anyone else. So I don't know what your thoughts are about this punk kid, but he looks like a little mousy. You just like to go up and go slap, 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 slap. He's absolutely abused the privileges of freedom in this country. He hurt other people. He killed other people. And I hope they throw him in jail and forget where they put the key. Your thoughts. Give me a call. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Whew, not in a good mood all of a sudden. Anyway, it's time for the weather forecast. And the weather brought to you by Mad River Laser. Wow. I say wow again. Nicole and her family and the staff over there, they do a wonderful job on all the awards. Maybe you've got year-end awards coming up or the beginning of the year, a great big party or whatever, and you're going to say so-and-so won this and so-and-so won that. They can do all those awards in crystal, acrylic, wood, plaques, trophies, everything. And, of course, don't forget, too, they got a bunch of great business promotional products over there for your business for 2016. Stop in and see them today at Mad River Laser, 502 East Street in Rupert. Right now, here's Gina with the weather.
Here's your weather for this December 29th as we are making our way closer to 2016. We are expecting some snow showers off and on for today, slightly on the breezy side, winds out of the southwest, right around 9 miles an hour. Expect a high of 21 tonight, low of 12. Tomorrow, cloudy conditions, high of 21 with an overnight low of 9. Looking at partly cloudy conditions for New Year's Eve day, high of 16 with an overnight low of 0. It's going to be cold. And then for New Year's Day itself, how about partly cloudy and 14? That's your weather for Zebeth Duran.
All right, Gina, thank you very much. Brought to you by Mad River Laser at 502 East Street in Rupert. Come on. Where is everybody this morning? My goodness. You know, part of the problem, and I'm not trying to chastise you, but it's the truth. Part of the problem is with these stories that I've mentioned, we're not speaking out and we're not letting everybody know, hey, we're not going to stand for this kind of stuff. I appreciate your calls. Come on. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I do have a question, kind of a survey for you here real quick. Representative Peter King from New York, I agree with him and others this morning, are calling for much more enhanced surveillance on Islamic mosques in the United States. And Representative Peter King said this morning, no more political correctness. We need to find out who is here, why they're here, and what they may be doing to aid and abet the bad guys. What are your thoughts about this? Some of the PC crowders, oh, no. Why, you can't have special surveillance on Islamic mosques. Oh, no, that's not right. Well, last time I looked, it wasn't anybody sitting in a Presbyterian church, a Mormon temple, or a Lutheran chapel that was causing the problem. And if increased surveillance is necessary, let's go get them. And listen to this. Even Muslim doctor Zuhdi Jasser said this morning, and I listened to him as he said it. Zuhdi from Arizona. He's been on my program. You've seen him on the news many, many times. Yes, we need to protect us. We need much more monitoring. What are your thoughts? Oh, the liberal left, especially like the Times News and the College of Southern Idaho. Oh, no, well, you can't do that. That's profiling. I can just hear it now. And I can just see in the next couple of days, they'll have a little bitty kind of a essay in their op-ed page that they won't mention my name specifically, but they'll come out with something like, oh, that's bad, that's terrible. How in the world can they adhere to profiling? Well, I am. I absolutely am. And I think it's a great idea. All across the country. We need to know who the bad guys and the bad girls are. Husband and wife team in San Bernardino with more surveillance and more checking into the imam at a certain mosque in California. Maybe those disastrous deaths could have been avoided. Your thoughts, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Give me a jingle. You know, this next story, this really bothers me. You know, I mean, pro sports, some in the NBA and some in Major League Baseball and some in the No Fun League, the National Football League, they're really, I think, trying to crack the whip and hold the chair in front of them and tame the tigers too much. And when I say that, well, they're so restrictive on certain things that I think they should bend a little bit. I'll give you an example. San Diego Charger Eric Weddle is on injured reserve. He got dinged pretty hard a couple of weeks ago, and he didn't even suit up for last Sunday's game. Now listen carefully to this. His little girl was part of the halftime entertainment at the Charger game. And Eric Weddle, injured reserve, not in uniform, when the team ran into the locker room at halftime, Eric Weddle wanted to stay on the field on the Charger sideline and watch his little girl perform. Doesn't that sound great? But he was fined $10,000 by the Charger organization for not running in and attending the team meeting at halftime. He delayed going in to watch his little girl, and the Chargers in the No Fun League and the administration of the Chargers stuck a hefty $10,000 fine on him. Now, again, I know what you're going to say. Well, he's part of the team. He should have been there. Wait a minute. He didn't even really have to be at the game. He's on injured reserve and can't suit up, can't play. Look at Manning and some others. They've been injured, and they didn't have to attend team meetings. They didn't have to be on the sideline. And the Charger organization is dinging him $10,000 for watching his little girl perform for 5 minutes at halftime. Oh, boy. You scratch your head sometimes and you just wonder, where have all the smart people gone? Holy smokes. Give us a call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I don't blame him. Matter of fact, I commend him for putting his child first. Don't forget your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations. And as I look out my window, I don't want to look out my window, but I looked out my window, and it is really snowing out. Oh, I hate winter. Anyway, they've got all your traction tires over there at your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. They've got all the traction tires with a different tread. They got all the studded tires. They've got all the tire chains. My goodness, you won't get stuck. You can drive on the snow, the ice, and the muck with all the tires from your Les Schwab Tire Centers. And don't forget the best in batteries. You know, as cold as it's been, that four-wheel wonder might have had to go boom, 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 and strain a little bit. You better make sure you got a good battery. If you don't, they've got great batteries for you at all 7 locations. So remember, stop in and see Lane and Rupert, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike and Buell, Mike and Jerome, the Twist family and Paul, John on Pole Line in Twin Falls, and Randy on Overland and Burley. The best. And they wish you and yours a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. I knew I was going to slip up on that. Your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. You stop in and see them today. All right, your turn. Run to the telephone, dial the number, and get in on the program. I'd love to have you right now. I don't understand this. You got to help me on this one. Supposedly, a Gallup poll was taken. Excuse me for the cough again this morning. A Gallup poll was taken for the most admired man and the most admired woman in the United States. Now you're way ahead of me. I know where you're going. And unfortunately, you're right. The most admired man, and I cannot understand how they could pick this unless they were at a Democratic National Convention headquarters. But the most admired man by a landslide was Barack Obama. Yeah, there you go. You're ahead of me already. And the most admired female was Hillary Clinton. Oh, come on. You're not going to buy into that, are you? Oh, my goodness. Who was asked this? Where was the poll taken? And guess who was in the top 5 of the most admired women in the world in the United States? Michelle Obama. Oh, and Oprah Winfrey was in there in the top 3. Ay. Come on, give me a call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. That just absolutely will destroy the flavor of your Cheerios this morning. Holy smokes. Coming up later on this morning in the next hour, I want to just kind of give a heads up. We're going to have Frosty Woldridge on with us this next half hour, and Frosty and I are going to kind of talk about what's happened in 2015 and what's going to maybe happen going into 2016. And then at 9:30, Dave Bigo, we're going to be talking about some of the economic woes that we're seeing with states that have increased the minimum wage to $15 an hour. And then at 10:06 this morning, Dr. History is going to be here. Yep. And he's going to have a good story for us. And then he's going to stay a little bit longer this morning. And we're going to talk about what's going to happen with maybe him and me and others as we look at our health, we look at our family, we look at our security, we look at working going into 2016. We look at maybe what's on our bucket list. We're just kind of make this a little personal in the last hour this morning right here at Zeb at the Ranch. Right now, I got time for one more call. Real quick. give me a jingle on the landline. I'd love to hear from you. So please give us a call. And I want to remind everybody, too, before I take the next call, you've been listening to Zeb at the Ranch. Make sure you're hearing everything. Contact Mount Harrison Audiology for a hearing screening. Call them at 312-0957 today. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Hey, Zeb, did you hear about the Washington Redskins?
I did. They're changing their name.
Yeah. They're going to get rid of Washington because it's too racist.
Yeah, we took that and had it on yesterday. They're getting rid of the name Washington in front of Redskin because it's making children look at Washington with the lack of ability and the lack of work ethic and the lack of doing things that are right, and so they're just going to be called the Redskins.
I think it's appropriate.
I do, too. Hey, I'm glad you called because I want to wish you and your lovely wife and family a very happy new year and best wishes to my neighbor, and I hope all goes well.
Same with you, my friend.
All right. Take care. Thank you so much.
You bet. Bye.
Oh, my goodness. Yes, sir. We're going to take a little break for about 3 minutes. Old Wheels is over at the main studio. He's got some music for us, and we'll be back in 6. Don't go away. Welcome back. Zeb at the Ranch, I'm Zeb Bell with our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. All 7 locations serving you, and stop in and see them today for all your traction tires. And don't forget some of our great advertisers, including Western Waste Services.
From the canyons of the Snake River and all across southern Idaho, we're always at your disposal. Western Waste Services, we care about our community, our resources, and this great land. Western Waste Services is lending a hand, always at your disposal. Western Waste Services.
No, it's true. Always at your disposal. Whether you get on the once-a-week route service to have your garbage picked up, it's out of there, or whether you need porta potties for a special event or dumpsters in different sizes, my goodness, they can help you. Don't forget Western Waste Services. Number to call, 734-6969. Yep, locally owned and operated, and always at your disposal. Let's not forget, too, our dear friends over in Rupert. Hello, Joel Heward at Hanson Mortuary, your family, your staff, and I certainly hope you had a very Merry Christmas, and we extend to you a Happy New Year, and he extends that same thing to all of us. Happy New Year. Hanson Mortuary, 710 6th Street in Rupert, and I want to remind you that when there is the passing of a loved one, please don't hesitate. Call them at 436-5636. They always work with you and your family with the highest ethical standards with unquestioned integrity. Hanson Mortuary, 710 6th Street in Rupert, 436-5636. Wishing you and yours Happy New Year. Right now, my buddy back in Gold in Colorado, and oh man, did his Broncos squeak out a lucky one last night. Hello, Frosty.
Good morning, Zeb. I tell you what, I was so distraught over that game when McManus missed that field goal in the last second of the game. I just said, I can't take it. I went to bed.
And then you woke up this morning and found out they won?
Right.
Oh, my goodness.
I mean, it's just like, I can't take all this drama. This is too much for me. So yeah, anyway, it's just all too exciting. It was too exciting for me last night after that field goal was missed.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah, I couldn't believe how it ended up. But, I want to say something real quick, and you being a former football player in college for Michigan State University, etc., the 2 backup quarterbacks, whether it was for Denver or whether it was for the Bengals, I thought they did exceptionally good jobs last night.
Oh, they did. It was just a fantastic game. I mean, come on. It was It was exciting. It was heartbreaking. It was, nail biter the whole way through. That's what everybody goes to see, the sports for. It was fantastic.
You know, Frosty, we're at the last program for this year, 2015, and we've still got so many problems in this country that seem to be growing like a cancer. We've got a administration right now, an administration that doesn't seem to care about our security, a president that is over in Hawaii and just enjoying the sun and the sand and the beaches, whereas at the same time ISIS is making major threats all over Europe and also to our ally Israel and also to us here in this country. There seems to be a disconnect from this administration as to really connecting and trying to protect us. I'm very worried going into 2016. What are your thoughts?
Actually, there's not a disconnect. I think there is an agenda, and that agenda is by a man who really, in the final analysis, when the history books are written, and I can stand on that because, again, actions speak louder than words. Actions speak louder than rhetoric, and actions speak louder than just about anything that you can make an excuse for. And the excuse, whether it's the racial unrest in this country for the last 7 years has hit an all-time high. Certainly our armed forces have been literally crippled. Some incredibly poor judgment has been made as to foreign intervention or even protection. And again, we are being flooded with jihadists. We're being flooded with Syrian jihadists, and whether it's 1% out of 200,000 that are coming into this country, or it's 5%, the American people, once again, whether it's San Bernardino or Chattanooga, Tennessee, or the Boston Marathon bombings, or 9/11, we get to be the victims of what this president is doing to us and what other presidents have done to us when it comes to illegal immigration.
Yeah.
And for those who don't appreciate this, Zeb, somewhere between 30 and 40% of illegal aliens are visa overstays. And whether it's a John Melmo, I think it was Melmo, the guy that was shooting people
right.
up from the back of a trunk of a car,
right?
And his son or his friend or whatever it was. These kinds of things are going to continue because we're having a sociological breakdown in our country. And by that, sociological breakdown, that means we're losing the ethos that holds us together as American citizens. That's going to continue, and this president is facilitating that, and that is just exactly what's going on right now.
Well, I was talking about some of these subjects earlier this morning, and this kind of let them all in where America is absolutely insane. And we have a lot of those liberal loons right here in my backyard in the greater Twin Falls area. They are lunatics when it comes to thinking that all that comes across our borders, whether legally or illegally, is glittering as a wholesome person, because now they're finding out, Homeland Security, the FBI, the CIA, everybody is finding out, whoa, wait a minute, we have not had a good vetting process. The TSA at the airlines came out yesterday and said, we can't keep up with all the threats, the possible bombs in the baggage, the guns, etc. Frosty, we are really unprotected, and this administration is to fault.
That's correct. And again, it's every one of our senators. I can't say this enough, Zeb, as a literary historian, because when they go back in time and they look at some of the lights that were shining on the facts, the writers that were speaking up. I mean, Pat Buchanan, he's written 3 books on the death of the West. The demise of the Republic. His latest column is out right now, and I just read it this morning. And the man is brilliant. Look at the complete disintegration of Europe. It's losing its ethos in every one of its countries. There's no longer any kind of, what's a Frenchman anymore? Well, a Frenchman is speaking Arabic, for heaven's sakes. And what's a Detroiter? Is a Detroiter the city of cars, the car capital of the world? Is that the ethos of Detroit? No, it's Arabic. It's speaking Arabic. It's got more mosques there. It's Middle Eastern. That's Detroit, Michigan right now. Again, you go to New York City. You can't really be guaranteed if you ask for directions on the street, because I've been there. You can't really count on anybody being able to give you the directions, and certainly not give them to you in English. And this is because of mass immigration. And as I've said, and I'm actually going to invite every person listening today. In 2016, I'm going to reestablish more contact with all of my readers across America at newswithviews.com, capsweb.org, and certainly numbersusa.org. We need to create a national discussion on whether or not we want to add 100 million third world immigrants in the next 30 years, because that's what's happening within 10 years. And I hope that you and I are still around for 10 years, and with a clarion call, we're going to really appreciate or speak up for the fact that we're about to add 35 million more people to this country. And literally, most of them won't be from the United States of America. And how are we going to survive that? So the email is 60M, as in minutes, 60 minutes, 60M at cbsnews.com. I'm hoping that everybody writes letters, and I'm going to have them on my Facebook page, Frosty Wooldridge, my Facebook page. I know a lot of you visit that page, and you know I put a lot of information on there about the Islamic invasion of our country, the mass illegal immigration of our country, and the mass legal immigration of our country. And I'm hoping to get people to write in, and I'm going to have this banner up, and absolutely invite everybody to push to get a Roy Beck, Kathleen Parker, certainly Dr. Diana Hull, a Joanne Weidman, a Frosty Wooldridge, David Paxson, all on 60 Minutes to talk about the ramifications of adding 100 million immigrants to this country, from the sheer point of ecological disaster and unsustainability and water shortages, and literally turning our country into a third world struggling civilization where everybody is in misery, everybody's poor, and there's no hope for anybody. That, of course, is India. That is Bangladesh. That's Mexico right now. And that's what I'm going to push for in 2016, Jeff.
Well, and I want to go back a little bit into the last hour. I was talking about New York Representative Peter King, and I like Peter King because he tells it like it is. And at 3:45 this morning, I saw a news clip with him, and he is calling for surveillance, extreme surveillance on Islamic mosques here in this country. No more political correctness. He said it's time to find out who and where the bad guys are. And this is also a shocker. 10 minutes later on the news this morning, a friend of mine that you have seen on the news, he's been on all the news programs many, many times, and he is a Muslim, Dr. Zuhdi Jasser from Arizona, came out and said, yes, I agree with Representative Peter King. We need to protect the United States. We need much more monitoring of the mosques and imams and what's going on. Why can't they heed the warning, Frosty? We've got a problem.
Well, I'm exactly with that particular individual in Arizona. The mosques are hiding the jihadists in this country. That is a fact. That's where they get all of their sympathies. They get all of the other radicals that are part of the Quran. You have to understand, the Quran is the voice of violence now growing here in the United States of America. In fact, here's one quote you'll see on my Facebook page. You can be full of kindness and love, but you cannot sleep next to a mad dog. If we are weak, our land will become Muslim. And this was a Buddhist monk, and he just said this thing, and it's so right on the money. We are literally, these Muslims are pernicious. And whether you think it's a happy Muslim, or whether you think it's a moderate Muslim or a radical Muslim, they're all the same. They will protect their own, and they will overwhelm a host country. That is absolutely the fact. And more than just this other imam has said that we've got to monitor. Peter King is right on. There's Steve King out in Iowa is the same way. We have got to stop importing Muslims into this country, period, because they can't help themselves. And it was no better understood than what happened in San Bernardino. This kid was making $70,000 a year. His little wife, Tashi Malik, came over here as a bride, and he then blows up an entire Christmas party. Just incomprehensible, this kind of savagery and barbarism, but that is Islam. And if we keep importing it and we don't inspect it, we're already in deep trouble as it is, but we definitely have to monitor and absolutely investigate all of the mosques in this country. There's 2,200 of them, and they are harboring not only the guns, because France right now has been going around checking out all the mosques, and they've been finding all sorts of weapons caches, and we need to do the same thing right here. We need to literally scare the Muslims out of their violence by, you must inspect what you expect, and we expect freedom and peace in this country, and if we don't get it, we need to absolutely guard against it, and that means to inspect all of these mosques and keep them under surveillance.
I want to ask you this, and give this a little thought. As you look at the tail end, the last couple of hours of 2015, and then look ahead to the next 387 days left in the Obama administration. You are very articulate, you are very pointed in what you write, and you have a lot of great concepts. What is your biggest fear or group of fears for the remaining time of this Obama administration?
Well, my greatest fear is that we're going to see bigger and more often we're going to see more of the San Bernardino terrorist attacks on our country, or this president is going to allow more of the setting up of these terrorist attacks in this country, because he is going to do everything he can to get 200,000 Syrian refugees into this country, and he's got the Congress completely cowed, and that there's not enough senators. I guarantee you, if I was a senator from Colorado right now, I'd be speaking up like you don't know who else. You know how I speak up. I speak up for America and Americans. And I am praying that a man like Donald Trump is going to continue to surge to the forefront of this country. And even Phyllis Schlafly just said it. She says he's the last guy to save this country, and certainly Ann, what's her name out there in New York that just did Adios America, Coulter.
Yes, Ann Coulter. Yep.
She made a great speech. We better literally rally around a man like Donald Trump, or we are literally going to be in incredible trouble. So that's the biggest thing I see coming up here in the next year, is how we can survive the last year of this man named Barack Hussein Obama, who truly is not an American president and truly is not looking out for the best interests of America.
I agree. Hey, we've got a caller with a question. Go ahead, caller, quickly, please.
Yeah, good morning. You know, I appreciate all that you do, Frosty and Zeb, but there's a book out there that Glenn Beck put out. It's about Islam, and I would recommend people, you can get those at Amazon and your bookstores, but it really outlines what you're talking about. I was just reading, though, last night about what's happened in the last century, the mass killing about 100 years ago of these young Turks that killed over 1 million men, women, and children that were Christians in Armenia. And they just leveled 3 cities. And our President Wilson at the time failed in an effort to make Armenia a U.S. protectorate. But I'd like Frosty to comment about that, because these people just want to kill us. They hate Christians and Jews. We better wake up to that fact and stop all this immigration coming into this migration as well as refugees.
I agree.
Anyway, people, we've got a bunch of killers coming here. We just don't know it yet for sure.
All right, thank you very much for your call. I appreciate it. And Frosty, I will say this before you respond, and I mean this. I honestly believe that Christianity and Christians are becoming a very endangered species. Do you think I'm being too melodramatic?
Oh, no, there's no question. You're being very correct, because Christians are literally, people are not either coming to church or they're leaving church. And this country is now and the foundation of this country is Christianity. It's what created this country. And you can have arguments back and forth whether, Washington or Thomas Jefferson or the rest of them were deists or agnostics or whatever. But what really built this country is Christianity. And I want to second the caller. He's so right on the money. Here is a quote from Omar Ahmad, and he's the director of the Council on American Islamic Relations. And he said, and I quote, "Islam isn't in America to be equal to any faith, but to become dominant. The Quran should be the highest authority in America, and Islam the only accepted religion on earth," unquote. I hope that put a shiver down your spines, folks, because that guy is in this country. He's leading the Council on American Islamic Relations. That is the single greatest quote, because it is a quote that says we're going to conquer your country, the United States of America. And given enough time, they literally will create incredible havoc in our country, and probably even worse. We may be fighting for our lives here in the coming years.
Well, I just look at this entire situation, and my wife and I have talked about this many, many times. Are we that naive? Are we that insensitive? Are we not caring about our Constitution and our country and our moral values? What is going on with the apathy in this country that people can't see the forest because one tree's in the way?
We are that apathetic. We are completely blind to what we're facing. And the reason is, and I've been on this illegal immigration and legal immigration issue now for well over 20 years. I've written about it profusely. I've tried to educate the American people. And you all know that you're listening today. I am dead on the money. Everything I write is factually backed up. Everything I've seen in my travels around the world backs up everything I've written about. And the fact is, the American people, last two elections, re-elected 96% incumbents. 96%. In other words, 96%. All the men and women in Congress that haven't done anything to stop this invasion of our country, both legally and or illegally, were re-elected into their office. And they're still up there doing what they're doing. And that absolutely is my two senators. I mean, both of them haven't done. If you go to numbersusa.org, both of them have an F. All three of them. Jared Polis is an F minus. Michael Bennet has an F minus, and I think Cory Gardner now has a F plus. I mean, and that goes for literally all the rest of your own senators, except for Jeff Sessions in Alabama. And so, yeah, the American people, apathetic, and they're literally, it's just like if you're apathetic with your children and you don't bring your children up, you don't love them, you care for them, and you discipline them and all that, they just become apathetic, and they become criminals, they become misfits, they don't do well in school. That's what's happening to our country right now. We simply are a country that's apathetic, even though we're sitting on the greatest gold mine in the world, the U.S. Constitution. And only 1% of us right now even defend that, because the military, there's only 1% of us going to the military. Most people wouldn't even know a company from a squad, from a platoon leader, because there's nobody serving this country anymore. And so, yeah, apathy is the greatest crisis we're facing.
Well, I certainly hope that we can continue our conversations going into this next year, 2016, and I want to say thank you so much for your diligence of being on this program, and the very best to you and Sandy. Happy New Year, and I'll look forward to talking to you in 2016. Thanks, Frosty.
Well, thank you, and I treasure these times together, and every person listening. Again, it's not over yet. Just like with the Broncos last night in the overtime. We are a country that's in overtime. We need to participate. We need to get in there. I'm going to give you these banners on my Facebook page to write in. I want to get on Charlie Rose. I want to get all these other top speakers. And we can and we will change the course of history by our actions and not by our grumbling. I'm going to really take the actions in hand. So thank you. I appreciate it, Zeb. God bless you, and Deanne, and God bless everyone, and Happy New Year.
Thank you very much. Frosty Woldridge in Golden, Colorado. Thank you very much, dear friend. Oh my, don't forget Let's Ride, 270 Highway 24 between Rupert and the world. I'm telling you what, they serve everybody with the very best of fun things outside, like your snowmobiles, your four-wheelers. Oh, and by the way, they've got the snow plows for your four-wheelers. You better get in there and check one out today. You can have fun even though you're out there just plowing the driveway. You better believe it. And all kinds of great accessories, too, at Let's Ride. All you have to do is just stop in at 270 Highway 24, like I said, between Rupert and the world, and you'll find what you're looking for. Oh, and by the way, great service department, too, where the fun is sold. Let's Ride. Don't forget, too, while you're over in that neck of the woods, and that's on Highway 24 going into Rupert. Yep, there they are. Cameron and Siemens Insurance. For the best of your life insurance, health insurance, retirement planning, employee benefits, you better make sure that you're covered and protected going into this next new year. Well, the pros, and they are the pros, at Cameron and Siemens can help you. They're very accessible and devoted to serving others, so please give them a call for an appointment today at 436-4424. Cameron and Siemens Insurance, Highway 24 in Rupert. Really nice people. Let's see, what else have we got? Oh, I want to remind you also, too, and I've said this many, many times on this program, and I'm going to stay with this opinion and attitude, that you are your first line of defense for your family and your property, and now more so than ever before, you should be stopping into Red's Trading Post at 203 5th Avenue South in Twin Falls. Ryan Horsley, his entire staff, and check out the firearms from Browning, Beretta, Weatherby, Ruger, Benelli, Smith & Wesson, and Winchester, and all the ammo and all the accessories. Now, I'm telling you, they've got the accessories, all the sights and the optics, the knives, the reloading and gun cleaning kits, and the hard-to-find powder for the reloaders. All of this and more, along with people that really, really know. Red's Trading Post, 203 5th Avenue South in Twin Falls. You stop in and see them today. Excuse me for the cough and the cold, but right now, let's go to the phone line. And a very dear friend of mine back in Indianapolis, Indiana, Dave Bigo. Good morning and Happy New Year.
Well, good morning, Zeb. Hope you had a Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to you and your audience.
I did, and I received all the pictures of the little subtleties that you were enjoying for Christmas, and I hope you and your family had a very merry time.
We had a great time, but I have to be honest, the grandkids, especially my three oldest grandsons, which are between 3 and 5, wore us out because they're just like mini tornadoes.
You know, I got to ask you this. You, being a family man, when the grandkids come over and the house is not used to having little ones running here and there and grabbing onto this and that, it kind of makes Grandma and Grandpa a little nervous, doesn't it?
Yes, it does, and the dog the same way, because the dog's not used to having these little tornadoes running around. But we all get used to it, and we had a great time together.
I want to ask you this, Dave. We got a lot of ground to cover on this half hour, and as you look, I asked Frosty Woldridge, he was on just before you. I asked him the same question, and I want you to give me a real thoughtful answer on this. When you look at now the remaining 387 days left of this Obama administration, what is the biggest fear to you and to your family and to your friends that you think might happen under this administration within the next year?
Well, by the way, Zeb, you're kind of fading out a little bit once in a while, but you know, I've written blogs on this, and you know, my one, The Great Pretender, wants control, and that's what I call the president, and because I think he's got a lot of people buffaloed. He pretends to be for the people and social justice and doing stuff and all that, but I think he's got an ulterior motive, and his motive is to fundamentally transform this country and change us from a capitalistic free market society into a socialist society where he is a totalitarian ruler. And I think people need to wake up and watch what he's doing the next 12 months, because I really think he's going to try and do things to topple the economy. And when you topple the economy, that's when you can declare martial law and take over.
Absolutely. Wheels, make sure that I'm up loud enough for Dave to hear us in the headsets. I want to ask you this, and this is a story that is so repulsive to me, but Mayor Bill de Blasio in New York has got this thing pushed through to where now New York City can fine people $250,000 possibly for misgendering somebody. In other words, if you say yes ma'am that's really not a ma'am, or yes sir to somebody that's really not a sir, they can turn around and file a suit against you for possibly winning $250,000. Our society has gone completely sick, Dave Bego.
Well, it has, but again, I'll go back to Zeb, that my belief is that these people on the far left, like de Blasio and Obama and others, what they're doing this for is for control purposes. And, they're trying to put the political correctness thing on everything so that they can control whatever people do at all times and that. And it's just like the union bosses I fought. They don't really want to unionize people to make their jobs better or more income or benefits. What it is control so that they get these people all working at the same rates and productivity, and they take union dues from them for their own pockets, because these people, the union bosses and Obama and de Blasio and people like them, they think they're smarter than the rest of us. The truth is they're not. They don't know how to function in our capitalistic society.
When you look at this, and nobody on my program knows more about unions and how devious they can be, there's been kind of a lull. There's been kind of a no press. There's not been any stories in the news lately, per se, about unions and the SEIU, and I wonder if you think like I do, they're kind of laying in the bushes just waiting for a better opportune time to really wreak havoc in 2016. What are your thoughts?
Well, I'm sure they are, and they are desperate, and they know that they need to re-elect another Democratic president if they're going to survive, because they're in a death spiral. And but just to give you an idea how desperate they are, in a lot of cases, and there's a NLRB case out in California where it appears that the SEIU is going after another union, trying to kick them out and take over their employees. And, when they start going after each other, that tells you something right there. And we've seen a few instances of that here recently.
Dave, when you look at the states, and I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, I think there's 12 or 15 states that now have adopted the $15 an hour minimum wage. What are your projections for those states during the next fiscal year 2016? Are they going to be going through a lot of job loss? What are the negatives? Talk to us about that.
Well, yeah, it's been already happening. Out by you in Seattle, there's been a lot of job loss. Restaurants and other stores and like that. And in fact, there's been a lot of owners that have just closed down and moved out. And, so now you have higher unemployment in those particular areas. And it's sad to see that happen. And the other thing that's happening is these people, and McDonald's is already going to it in some places, where you have automated systems where you go up and there's not somebody to take your order. You punch it in the machine and get together and they bring it to you, and you pay for it with at the time. It's what they don't understand is that they're fundamentally eliminating jobs in this country. They're not helping these people. But again, Zeb, I come back. They're doing this to make people think they're helping them so they can get their votes.
What about the economy going into 2016? We are seeing some lower fuel prices right now, which I had Marita Noon on yesterday from New Mexico, and she's an energy expert, and she said, look out, Obama can't stand this. His energy secretary can't stand the low prices. There's going to be something happen to escalate these prices and really disrupt our economy. What are your thoughts on that going into this next year?
Well, I don't know, Zeb. It's interesting. We see all across the country with people we do business with that they're laying off people, they're cutting back, they're hurting. And the commodities are down, oil prices are down. There's going to be job loss. I mean, we've got a couple customers that have indicated they're going to be closing facilities, and you got layoffs of 12 to 1,500 people in some of these facilities, and it's sad to see. But I kind of take a little bit different approach. I kind of think it's what Obama wants. I think he wants the economy to implode again so he can take over.
I've got to ask you about this story because it is so ridiculous. I thought at one time when I was in school as a student at a university that I was going there to learn a occupation and eventually better myself in my environment. But evidently now kids are going to school just to be activists. And Yale University has got a group of kids right now that are having a petition going around to repeal the First Amendment. What is the matter with these kids? Are they really that dumb?
No, but they're being brainwashed, Seb. And again, I don't know how to tell people. I've been through this, and a lot of people in this country have not experienced what I've experienced in fighting the SEIU. And people got to back up and understand the SEIU is a big part of the Liberal Party and the far left and getting Obama elected. And, Obama and these people learn their tactics from Alinsky-type tactics from people like the SEIU. And one of the things that they're very, very good at is getting out in front of people and giving them misinformation, lies, brainwashing them, making them think that, this is not good for you, and here's what's good for you, and we're all for you. And they do it in the shadows, so other people don't see them doing it in that. And unfortunately, a lot of these people, because they've never experienced something like this in their life, and they just don't delve into it and check it out. They just buy into it, and they typically like to really go to places that are already liberal to start with, which, out at Yale, you've got that.
But is our education system that much maligned and that much in the sewer that kids going through elementary school, into high school, into college cannot appreciate the rights and the freedoms afforded to them in this country, and they go to a prestigious Ivy League school like Yale, and many of these dummies, that's what they are ready to sign away their basic rights and freedoms? I can't believe this.
Well, Zeb, I can't either, but again, I've seen this in work. I've seen how these people work and how they brainwash these people, and that's one reason that Obama wants nationalized health care, Common Core, so they can start this process early, and you can brainwash people, and you can get them in line with what you want them to do, and that's what they're doing up at Yale. And a lot of these professors up there, they've been brainwashed through the years, and they just think this is the right thing. You look at some of the writers for some of the liberal papers, too, and you look at it and you go, really? What have you ever done in your life in the free market system to get you to understand what it really takes to be successful? Government can't do this and control us because government can't make money. Government will fail.
When you go and visit with your employees, and I don't know how many employees you have right now, but do you see this kind of a thought process permeating into your employees? I mean, how readily available is this stupidity? I hope it's a cancer that we can cure. I hope we can.
Well, fortunately, Zeb, and we found this out when we fought the SEIU, a majority of our employees understand who we are and what we're doing, and we've got close to 5,000 employees, and they understand and they buy into what we're doing as a company, and they understand that people have to go out and work hard and persevere and move from one job to the next job, and they have to improve themselves. It can't just be handed to them, and that has really been a thing that's really made me feel good as I go around and talk to employees that work for us across the country, and even vendors and other people that we do business with. that have the same type of philosophy, and they understand that it isn't about what government does for you. It's about what you do for yourself, making yourself better in life.
Let me ask you, though, Dave, 5,000 employees, that's a very, very impressive workforce. But is it harder and harder every day to find people that will have a work ethic, that will have some kind of motivation, that will have a goal for the future? Is it becoming that much harder to find these people?
Well, it is, Zeb, and it's fine. It's hard to find people in general because there's such a large percentage of the workforce is sitting on the side because of government subsidies and welfare programs and things like that. That they can actually sit at home and collect food stamps and aid for dependent children and unemployment and other things, and they do that, and they know how to milk the system to do it, and it's just absolutely incredible how many of them there are out there, and they even profess to it.
I want to ask you one final thought here this morning, and I saw this morning, and honestly, I about fell out of my old geezer chair, scratching my head. A supposedly latest Gallup poll, and the most admired man and the most admired woman in the United States. Without even giving you kind of a snickering preview as to who it might be, who do you think came up as the most admired male and the most admired female?
Oh, the Clintons?
No, but you're on the same track there, and I find this hard to believe. Barack Obama was selected as the most admired male, and then on the other side of the coin, the most admired female was Hillary Clinton. And it makes you wonder if the Gallup poll wasn't taken at the Democratic National Headquarters. What are your thoughts?
Well, I'm not a real big believer in polls, Zeb. I question how they're handled and how they're slanted and things like that. I don't know about you, but I never get called for a poll question.
True.
And I think they have a certain segment of the population they want to talk to, and they know they'll get the answers they want. And that just bothers me.
Any lofty goals or hopefully betterment for 2016 that you want to share with us? Any New Year's resolutions?
Well, I think we as Americans have to wake up and realize that big government's not the answer, and we have to fight back. And, that's obviously one of my goals as I continue to, write blogs and appear on programs like yours and trying to get the message out to people. And as I talk to people across the country and do speeches and that, because we have to turn this country around. We are heading in the wrong direction, and we've got to fix this economy, and we got to get people back to work, and we got to be doing what makes America great, and that is going out and creating new jobs, new technology, new ways of life, and things that make people successful.
By the way, Dave, why don't you go ahead and tell everybody how to log on to your blog weekly, if you would, please. Go ahead, take the time.
Yeah, go to thedevilatourdoorstep.com, and they can read my blog there, and if they're interested by a copy of my book, because more and more people are getting interested in my book.
Absolutely. Dave, you've been a great friend of this program, and I hope that we can continue going into 2016, but on behalf of Deanne and I, we want to extend to you and your business and your family a very happy and prosperous 2016. Happy New Year.
Well, the same to you and Deanne and your group, Zeb. We appreciate what you're doing. We need more people like you helping get the word out and waking up America.
God bless you, my friend. See you next year.
Good. God bless you. See you next year.
All right. Thank you very much. Dave Bego, Indianapolis, Indiana. Thank you very much. Well, I'd better get the weather on here right now. And the weather is brought to you by old Rick and the crew over at Mountain Transmissions. You better believe it now, serving southern Idaho. And they can fix your transmissions, whether it's in your car, truck, RV, motorhome, 4x4, foreign and domestic, all makes and models. And they've got a transmission tune-up special right now for just $89.95. More than 30 years experience. They know transmissions, and they're located at 504 East Main in Burley. Why don't you pick up the phone and give them a call? 678-9110. 678-9110. Mountain Transmissions. Right now, here's Gina with the weather.
Here's your weather for this December 29th as we are making our way closer to 2016. We are expecting some snow showers off and on for today. Slightly on the breezy side. Winds out of the southwest right around 9 miles an hour. Expect a high of 21 tonight, low of 12. Tomorrow, cloudy conditions, high of 21 with an overnight low of 9. Looking at partly cloudy conditions for New Year's Eve day, high of 16 with an overnight low of 0. It's going to be cold. And then for New Year's Day itself, how about partly cloudy and 14? That's your weather for Zeb at the Range.
Thank you very much, Gina. Great job on the weather, as usual. And brought to you this hour by Mountain Transmissions. Rick and the crew over there at Mountain Transmissions, 504 East Main in Burley. Number to call, 678-9110. Coming up next hour, Dr. History, and urge you to be listening. Going to be really interesting this morning. And in just a couple of minutes, we're also going to have the Starving to Death segment. So don't go away. We're going to tell you, if you're hungry, where you can go. Caller, good morning. You're on the air. Go ahead, please.
Good morning, Zeb. I've been trying to call in for about an hour, and I haven't been able to get through. Anyway, I think they misquoted that survey. I don't think it should have been Hillary Clinton or Obama. I think it should have been Rosie O'Donnell. And I don't know what sex she's claiming to be, but, probably she would probably fit both bills.
I found that poll to be almost laughable as the most admired. Are you kidding me? Barack Obama. His popularity has slipped so low right now, the lowest of his presidency, the lowest of almost any president. And then to have on the other side of the coin a liar, a cheat, a fraud, and a criminal, Hillary Clinton, it just says how low this country is going.
It just tells me they're using a lot of propaganda any way they can, any lie they can put forward, they're pushing it, and they're going to keep doing it until this election's over.
I agree with you, Jerry. Jerry, to you and your family, a very happy New Year. Thank you for all your calls.
And you have a happy New Year, too, and the rest of your audience the same way. And Brenda called me yesterday and told me Russell went in and they stretched his esophagus, which was supposed to solve his problem with his throat. I haven't heard how it did, but hopefully it worked as has worked in the past.
All right, our prayers are with our dear friend Russell Smith. Jerry, God bless you, man. Thanks.
You bet. You have a wonderful day. May the Lord bless.
All right, he already has. Real quick, I got to share this with you. To all the global warming alarmists out there and all the people that are committed to climate change, we're going to burn up. Wait a minute. In the movie White Christmas, and I wished I would have picked up on this before, and how many of you out there have watched that movie as many times as I have? I've watched Bing Crosby and White Christmas, I'll bet you 30 to 40 times minimum. And I never picked up on this before, but that movie was made way back in, the 40s? And with Bing Crosby and Danny Kaye, Rosemary Clooney, etc. There is a couple of lines stated in that movie that I thought were very interesting. If you'll recall, they being Bing Crosby and the rest of his group, they were going to go up and put on a stage show in Vermont at a ski lodge. And they were really worried about putting on the show because there was a lack of snow and the temperature was 68 degrees. Now, I know it was a movie. I know it was fictitious. But see, the concept of having cyclical temperatures and cyclical weather patterns, it's not a new thing. And way back into the 40s when this movie was made, they were very worried about no snow for a ski lodge because in Vermont, of all places, the temperature was 68 degrees. Oh my. Okay, now here's the deal. Dr. History coming up next hour. I still have time for a couple of more phone calls. And I want to remind you right now, we're doing this a day early, but 2 days early, as a matter of fact. We're going to say to you, if you're hungry and starving to death, here are some great places to go. How about for celebrating the year end and going into the next year, Taco Bandito? They're going to be open until 8 p.m. on New Year's Eve, closed on New Year's Day. And I'll tell you what, they've got those steak breakfast burritos. Oh, they are delicious. You got to go in and have one. And the new spicy bacon burritos at 2301 Overland in Burley. Taco Bandito wishing you and yours a very happy new year. How about Steve-O's, 290 South, 600 west of Hayburn, 679-3887, the number to call. Food made the way you love it. And they're going to have regular hours on New Year's Eve. They're going to be closed on New Year's Day. And they've got a special 2 lamb chops, choice of potatoes, and a dinner salad for only $12. Oh, what a great way to welcome in the new year. And that's on New Year's Eve at Steve-O's, 290 South, 600 west of Hayburn. Now let's move over to 2 locations of Burgers Etc. One is located at 124 South Oneida in Rupert. The other one at 700 Overland in Burley. And they're going to be open until 10 p.m. on New Year's Eve, and then they will also be open on New Year's Day with delicious burgers and bacon burgers and taco salads and onion rings. Oh, yeah, and corn dogs and burritos, just 99 cents at both locations, Burgers Etc. in Rupert and Burley. And last but not least, in our Starving to Death segment, don't forget the AC Drive-In at 601 East Main in Burley. They're going to be open until 7 p.m. on New Year's Eve, closed on New Year's Day, and stop in and get a hold of one of those great, delicious mint shakes or pumpkin shakes. Great meals for the whole family. You're going to love the food and the great service at the AC Drive-In, 601 East Main in Burley, and those are some great places to go if you're hungry and starving to death. Whew, got time for one more call. Hey, Dr. History, come in here a minute. I want to ask you how the roads are. Get on the microphone real quick. Dr. History braved the elements and mushed his huskies over here this morning. How are the roads?
They're a little slick.
Really?
Yeah, so don't be going anywhere fast.
So you normally had to curb back your 75 mile an hour?
I cut it back to about 74, 73.
Kiddingly, of course.
Yeah, I got up to about 55 and 45 coming out here, so it is slick, so be careful.
You know, and that's the thing, we get so accustomed to the dry roads and everything, and boy, when we do get a little snow, not only are the trucks wheeling by, but the cars are following the trucks, and then all of a sudden they run into a patch of ice and it's all over.
Well, the good thing about growing up around here, you and I and a lot of people, they know how to drive on slick roads.
You know, where I really learned how to drive was back in the Midwest, and I'm being honest about that. I mean, back in Wisconsin, it was customary. We could look at anywhere from 3 to 4 feet of snow every winter, and very icy conditions. And then when I went to school at Minneapolis, I really found out what snow was back when I went to the Twin Cities. So I drive like an old geezer.
That's all right. I'd rather take another 10 minutes to get there.
You know, it was funny the other night on Christmas Eve. I got to tell you the story real quick. We left church and we're headed home. It took an hour to get from Twin to here. And in Twin, people were sliding all over the road and doing little donuts and funny little things in the snow and the ice. But yours truly and Deanne, we just kept right on trucking.
It's great to have four-wheel drive, isn't it?
It is, and then also take your time.
Yes.
You got to pay attention.
If it starts blowing now, I think we're going to get some pretty good drifting.
Ooh, don't tell me that. I got to go to the doctor this afternoon. Don't forget, you've been listening to Zeb at the Ranch, and I hope you're hearing everything. Make an appointment with Mount Harrison Audiology for a hearing screening. Call them at 312-0957. We'll have Dr. History coming up next hour, but right now back to CBS News. We'll see you in 6. Oh, welcome back. Snowy outside. Be careful, please, on the roads. Welcome back to Zeb at the Ranch. I'm Zeb Bell, and our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you, along with our great advertisers, one of which is Western Way Services. Always at your disposal. Call and get on the route service to get rid of your garbage, 734-6969. Before we go with our guest, I want to remind you, oh my goodness. I got to give you three of them. Three specials, because I'm not going to be on the air tomorrow or the next day at the Chadwick Sports Grill, 139 West Main in Burley. Today, they're going to have chicken enchiladas. I love those. Chicken enchiladas served with Spanish rice and super salad. That's today's special at the Chadwick. Then tomorrow, they're going to have chicken fajita pasta served with garlic toast super salad. And then on Thursday for the special, they're going to have beef stroganoff on egg noodles. I love egg noodles with garlic toast and super salad. All of this, plus they're going to have a New Year's Eve party at the Chadwick. Don't forget that. The Chadwick Sports Grill, 139 West Main in Burley. Oh, by the way, real quick, I also want to remind you that Cassia County School Days will not be on the air this week, but we want to acknowledge our two great sponsors, Child's World at 1308 Overland in Burley, and plan ahead now and stock up for the times ahead. 40% off on all winter clothes right now at a Child's World, 1308 Overland in Burley. And then also, our thanks goes to Ambulatory Surgery Center at 1344 Highland Avenue, 677-8888. Make a resolution for good health in 2016. And don't forget, check on life-saving colonoscopies, cataract surgery, all your outpatient surgeries, and save money at Ambulatory Surgery Center, 1344 Highland in Burley, along with the Child's World, bringing you school days in Cassia County. Right now, on Tuesdays, it's time for Dr. History, and brought to you by Minnecasia Sales at 1321 East Main Street in Burley, right across from the airport. Zach and the whole crew serving you at Minnecasia Sales. And I might also say, this little budding a teenager, he looks like a teenager, was born 66 years ago on this New Year's Day coming up. He is a New Year's Day baby, complete with all the depends and everything else. Here he is, Dr. History.
Good morning, Zeb. How you doing today?
Happy birthday to you.
Thank you.
How does it feel to be that old?
You know, I just, like you said, I still feel like a teenager. What can I say?
I guess I know the answer to that. I passed it already.
Yes.
Happy New Year.
Thank you, and you too.
I'm looking forward to another year, 2016. And Dr. History has grown in popularity. What, 100 and how many countries?
About 112 countries,
Really?
over 400,000 hits on our webpage, and a lot of people in South America, China, Europe. It just amazes me the countries where we're getting hits, people listening.
And it's basically because of the program being kind of centered around history of the Old West.
I think people, a lot of people are really fascinated with the Old West, the cowboys, the Indians, and that's kind of where we fit that slot.
Yeah. Okay, now you've got a year-end story for us.
This is going to be a story, and then we're going to talk about some other things to kind of summarize, I guess, the year, so to speak. This is a guy that his name just says Mountain Man Trapper.
Okay.
Jedediah Smith.
Oh, I heard of him.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, his name just, you just think Mountain Man. So, anyway, he was born actually in 1799, so over 200 years ago. Now, he came from two God-fearing New England families and was personally taught by Methodist circuit preachers. Around 1810, Smith's father, who owned a general store, allegedly was caught using counterfeit money. Now, this wasn't too good for the family's reputation, so to protect his family, the elder Smith moved his family west to Pennsylvania. Now, it was here that Jedediah got a copy of Lewis and Clark's 1814 journal to the Pacific, and they say that he carried this journal, Lewis and Clark's journal, on all of his travels throughout the American West.
I got a question for you right there. You know you hate my interruption with questions.
Okay.
But you said a copy of the journal. Now, that would not necessarily be easy at those times to obtain, would it?
Well, actually, it says an 1814 journal.
Oh.
So I don't know if he actually had the original.
I see.
I don't know that.
Okay.
Well, actually, it does. It says a copy. As I look back, it says a copy. So by 1814, evidently they had made some copies of their journal.
Oh, my goodness.
So he carried that with him, which probably helped him as he traveled throughout the West.
Okay.
So 1822, Jedediah is 23 years old by now. He traveled to St. Louis and responded to an advertisement in the Missouri Gazette placed by a General William H. Ashley. Now, Ashley and Major Andrew Henry, these two guys were pretty prominent in the West as far as trapping. But they were partner owners of the American Fur Company. Now, according to the ad, General Ashley was looking for enterprising young men to explore the Missouri River and engage in the fur trade business in the Rocky Mountains. Well, Jedediah, kind of an imposing guy, 6 foot tall, blue-eyed, 23-year-old with, as they described, a commanding presence. Mm-hmm. Anyway, it impressed General Ashley to hire him. So Ashley initially led the expedition, and Jedediah got his first glimpse of the frontier. Coming out west, he got in contact with the Sioux, the Arikara tribes, but Jedediah finally reached the Fort Arikara under the control of Major Andrew Henry at the foothills of the Rocky Mountains on the Yellowstone River. Now, on his first expedition up the Missouri River, he learned to trap beaver and to hunt buffalo. Now, okay, so a year later, you can tell what kind of a guy he is, because a year later, 1823, he became a leader of Ashley's men. And Jedediah took a beaver trapping party and explored the Rocky Mountains south of the Yellowstone River. Now, we're going to kind of get into our country here in a little bit.
Pretty close.
Yeah. So in 1824, Smith launched an exploratory expedition to find a route through the Rocky Mountains. Now, Smith was able to retrieve information from some Crow Indians, and when communicating with the Crows, one of Smith's men actually made a unique map using a buffalo hide and sand. Now, I don't know how they used the sand on that, but somehow
they had to glue it on the paper somehow, didn't they?
I don't know, but the Crows were able to show Jedediah and his men the direction to the South Pass, which Jedediah and his men crossed through this pass in the Rocky Mountains and were able to reach the Green River in what is now Utah. And then from 1824 to 1825, Jedediah and his men explored the Rocky Mountains and trapped the Green River, the Bear River, the Snake River, Clark's Fork, and I'm guessing, I know that some of them came clear down to this area here,
really?
Hunting for, beaver.
Okay.
But anyway, in 1825, Smith actually became partners with William Ashley. Now, the rediscovery of the South Pass from the Crow Indians was a very important step, because this was the fastest and most direct route to get to the Rocky Mountains and into California. So, now this might be a good spot, because I got a question
there, though, because it amazes me. When you look at old westerns, whether they're of the vintage of the Mountain Man, or whether it's the old cowboy westerns, or maybe it's a cattle drive, and they say go north until you hit Abilene. Well, you can go north a lot of times. How are you going to find just Abilene, or how are you going to find something without a map or without having better coordinates? You know what I'm trying to say?
Right. And like I say, I think Jedediah maybe got some direction from Lewis and Clark, and then he was friends with the Indians.
Wow.
So, and the Indians obviously knew the country.
Absolutely. Well, we'll have more with Dr. History in just a moment. Don't forget Minnecash Sales at 1321 East Main Street in Burley. Zach, the whole crew, and they wish to you and yours a very happy new year. Don't forget, for all your remodeling needs, they've got all the lumber. They've got everything over there, including the great Western windows. And if you're upgrading your windows to save on heating and or cooling bills in the summer, Western Windows are the best. Stop in and see them for what your needs are. They've got carpet, they've got vinyl, they've got it all for you at Minnecash Sales. Wonderful, wonderful people serving you at 1321 East Main Street in Burley, right across from the airport. And we're very blessed to have them as the main sponsor of Dr. History.
You know, when you think of the mountain men, we have talked about how tough and enduring enduring these guys were to put up with everything.
Absolutely.
And this is what I'm going to lead into this. Smith was often recognized by a significant facial scarring due to a grizzly bear attack along the Cheyenne River. In 1824, while looking for the Crow tribe to obtain fresh horses and get westward directions, Jedediah was stalked and attacked by a huge grizzly bear.
Oh, boy.
This huge bear jumped and tackled Jedediah to the ground. His ribs were broken, and members of his party witnessed Smith actually fighting this big old grizzly.
Well, where were the other guys?
They were watching.
Oh, boy. Good friends to
great
have.
Help.
Yeah.
So this bear ripped open his side with its claws, took his head in his mouth. The bear suddenly retreated, and the men ran to help Smith. Now, why it retreated...
Yeah, but let me ask you right there, Dr. History. There's another man, and I forgot his name right now.
Hugh Glass.
Hugh Glass. And is it Glass or Glass?
Glass.
Glass, like in Window.
Right.
And that is the character that the new movie that's coming out with Leonardo DiCaprio called The Revenant.
Right. And I'm curious to see how that compares with the actual story.
Yeah, really.
But Jedediah, like I say, he was just ripped open, and like I say, the bear retreated. So they found his scalp and ear was nearly ripped off, but he convinced a friend, a guy named Jim Kleiman, to sew it loosely back on, giving him directions.
Loosely?
Loosely.
Why loosely?
I don't know why loosely, but I don't know. Maybe for allow for swelling or something. But
here an ear, there an ear, everywhere an ear.
So the trappers got some water, they bound up his broken ribs, they cleaned his wounds, and after recuperating from his bloody wounds and broken ribs, Jedediah wore his hair kind of long to cover this large scar, which went from his eyebrow clear over to his ear.
From his eyebrow to his ear.
I don't know which side, but it was, I'm sure the stitching wasn't exactly of the professional method, you know?
Yeah.
Just a needle and thread.
I wonder what kind of thread it was.
That's a good question, and I'm guessing it was probably just maybe good old sewing thread. They didn't have the stitches stuff.
Hopefully it wasn't a piece of rawhide.
Yeah. So here we go. We're into 1826 now. He's about 27 years old. And William Ashley retired from the fur trade, and in kind of a complicated arrangement, he sold his share to the newly created firm of Jedediah Smith, David Jackson, and William Sublett. And we've heard the Sublett name around here.
Isn't that the same person they named Sublett after?
Yes.
I thought so.
So Smith and Company proceeded to make two expeditions to California in 1826 and 1827, and the excursion went deep into Mexican territory, and this was unauthorized. This was not legal for them to go into there without permission from the Mexican government, but they did it. So anyway, in his first trip, Smith's party followed the Colorado River deep into the west in search of new hunting grounds. And as they were going along, they were actually attacked by a group of Mojave Indians, and they lost several men, but they found shelter and actually found a friendly Mojave village that took care of the men while they recuperated.
I see.
Now, at this point, Smith asked for permission to travel north to the Columbia River, where Paz could quickly take his party back into the United States territory. And remember, this is 200 years ago.
Yeah.
So by early May 1827, Smith and his party had accumulated about 1,500 pounds of beaver. Now, getting these furs to the Mountain Man Rendezvous near Great Salt Lake was a problem.
I would imagine.
They had a long ways to go.
Yeah.
Now, he had traveled 350 miles north, but had seen no break in the wall of the Sierra. So he was on the west side. So he turned up the rugged canyon of what would later be called the American River, and the snow was too deep. He had completed his crossing this far north, but at this point, if he had gone there, he would have gone through Lake Tahoe and that area where I think would be Donner Pass.
Right.
But he wasn't able to make that, so they headed back south, and but they still had heavy snow, and but it was rough. Jedediah took only 2 men with him with some extra horses, and they became this epic crossing of the Sierra Nevadas. Now, his plan was to get to the rendezvous as quickly as he could and return to his California trapping party with more men later that year. Now, after crossing the Sierra Nevada, Smith continued east across central Nevada. Now, you and I have traveled across Nevada.
Many times.
There is nothing out there.
Well, occasionally.
Yeah, maybe a jackrabbit.
Just dropped in to say hello.
Yeah. So he crossed this difficult route, which was known as the Great Basin, and one of the guys, Robert Evans, one of his guys collapsed, couldn't go any farther.
Yeah.
So Jed and this other guy, they left Evans and pressed on.
They left him there.
For shortly. They got to the foot of a mountain and they found some water. So Jed went back and rescued Evans. And the three of them eventually reached the Great Salt Lake.
Wow.
Now,
whereabouts was this?
This was across Nevada somewhere. I'm not sure.
I wonder if that sounds like almost Wendover area.
Yeah, or anywhere through that.
Yeah.
Ely, maybe Wells,
yeah.
Some of those areas, yeah. So they made it to the Great Salt Lake. And anyway, the local Indians told him that the whites were gathered further north at the Little Lake, which actually is Bear Lake.
Bear Lake.
So the three explorers reached the rendezvous on July 3rd, and the mountain men celebrated Jed's arrival with a cannon salute.
Now, wait a minute. When you think about that, they're in Salt Lake. They'd never been in this area before, right?
Well, yeah, I don't know for sure.
And somebody says, well, just go north. Well, you could go north and end up in Canada and not hit Bear Lake, for heaven's sakes.
That's true. They must have had a little better direction.
Yeah.
But the thing that was interesting is they saluted his arrival with a cannon salute, and this was the first vehicle ever brought this far west on wheels.
Oh,
so
boy.
he must have been a pretty popular guy,
I guess,
among the mountain men.
Either that or they were shooting at him, one of the two.
But they'd actually given him up for lost. They thought he was gone because he was so late getting to the rendezvous.
Wow.
So anyway, Smith returned to California the next year with 18 men and 2 women, and they followed the Colorado River and the Mojave Desert route, and he knew this pretty well by now. He was familiar. But at the Colorado River, the party was attacked again by the Mojave Indians, and out of his 18 men, it killed 10 of the men, and they took the women as slaves or
I
whatever.
see. Okay.
But anyway, Smith and his party remained in California. They hunted in the Sacramento Valley for several months before heading north along the Pacific coast to use the Columbia River to return to their headquarters. Now, Jedediah became the first explorer to reach the Oregon country overland by traveling up the California coast. Now, have you ever driven down that Oregon,
Yes.
The trees and the mountains?
It's rough country.
I mean, I don't know how they made it, really, going up through that area.
Yep.
But anyway, in the Oregon country, Smith's party fell into a conflict with some Indians over a stolen axe, and this was with the Umpqua people.
A stolen axe?
A stolen axe. Now, Smith's party had threatened to execute the man that they accused of stealing the axe.
Oh, my.
Now, later, Smith's group was attacked, and 15 of Smith's 19 men were killed.
No, wait a minute. I thought he was down to 8 men.
Well, this was the next. He must have picked up some more.
Mickey Mouse Club got some more.
He got some more guys.
Okay.
So 15 of Smith's 19 men were killed. This left 4. But they managed to reach the Hudson's Bay Company at Fort Vancouver.
Wow.
Now, that's all the way up that Oregon coast.
Wow.
That's a long ways.
Yeah, it is. How long did it take them?
Well, just that year, because the next year, 1829, they're going again.
They're going again.
So he personally organized a fur trade expedition into the Blackfeet territory, and Smith was able to capture a good cache of beaver this time before they actually were attacked by the Blackfeet Indians.
Oh, my goodness. Now, this is up towards Montana, right?
Yeah, this has got to be up where the Blackfeet are.
Yeah.
Maybe even into Idaho. I don't know.
Yeah.
But anyway, Smith in 1831 became involved in a supply trade known as the Commerce of the Prairies. And Smith was leading supply wagons for the Rocky Mountain Fur Company on the Santa Fe Trail. Now, this is where it gets a little bit fuzzy. Okay. In May of 1831, he left the group to scout for water. He never returned to the group. Jedediah.
Okay.
The remainder of the party proceeded on to Santa Fe, hoping Smith would meet them there, but he never arrived. Now, a short time later, members of a trading party discovered a Mexican merchant at the Santa Fe market offering several of Smith's personal belongings for sale.
I see.
Well, they questioned him, and he said he had gotten them from a band of Comanche hunters.
Now, wait a minute. The Comanches, They were way down in Texas, weren't they?
South.
Yeah.
Santa Fe.
Yeah.
They're down there.
Right.
Well, so what happened later came out. Jedediah was looking for water for his 1831 expedition when he came upon an estimated 15 to 20 Comanches.
Okay.
And this is the story that was told. There was a brief face-to-face standoff until the Comanches scared his horse and shot him in the left shoulder. After gasping from the injury, Jedediah wheeled his horse around and with one rifle shot was able to kill their chief.
Really?
The Comanches then rushed on Jedediah, and by this time he didn't have time to use his pistols. They stabbed him to death with lances. Now, Austin Smith, Jedediah's brother, was able to retrieve Jedediah's rifle and pistols that the Indians had taken and traded to the Mexican trader.
Holy cow.
So, but...
Now, wait a minute. Stop. Right there a question comes up as to the brother, you said?
Yes, Austin.
Went and got the guns?
From that the Mexican had traded from the Comanches.
I see.
So,
okay.
But characteristics of this guy, he was not your typical mountain man.
No.
He followed the Methodist practice. Smith was known to be a reserved, pious man who often read the Bible. He meditated and prayed. Smith never boasted, and having a stern personality, only rarely was known to have a sense of humor. Interesting kind of a character. And another thing, unlike contemporary mountain men, Smith never smoked, got drunk, or used profanity. And he was known for his systematic recorded observations of the land and nature.
Now, did he keep notes on his travels?
He did, and I don't know where those are, or if they're preserved somewhere. I would hope they are.
Yeah.
But this is, I'm hoping, is from some of his
It would have been
writings.
really interesting to read the last entry that says, I'm surrounded by 30 in... That's it.
The end.
Yeah, the end.
Anyway, while traveling overland through the American West, I know we're about out of time on this story, and I'm about done here, but his policy with the Indians was to maintain friendly relations with gifts and exchanges. But if he felt it was necessary to have a show of force against a hostile Indian tribe, sometimes he would actually kill an Indian if it came to that.
So the old story or theory that if you shoot the chief, the other ones will run away, that didn't happen.
They got madder at it.
They really got mad.
But his reluctance to kill the American Indians was due to his Methodist faith and training, and he held kind of the contemporary belief that Indians weren't intellectually as smart as people.
Well, they hadn't had the opportunity for education.
Right. But, if you think about it, in his lifetime, Smith would travel more extensively in unknown territory than any other single mountain man. He traveled in the Central Rockies, down to Arizona, the Mojave Desert, into California, into Mexico, California, all amazing journeys.
Now, you take like this, and then the story of, you mentioned his name.
Hugh Glass.
Hugh Glass, and then also Jeremiah Johnson.
Right.
A lot of similarities there. Is a lot of that just folklore?
No, from my studies, the things that I have read and studied, these men were amazing men.
Yeah.
And oftentimes by themselves. And again, oftentimes, too, a mountain man would disappear like Jedediah did the first time, and they just thought he was dead and would never know what happened to him.
Well, look at Hugh Glass, the story there. I mean, I don't often recommend movies, but I have talked to some of my friends down in California that are in the motion picture business, and they have told me that this story that they put together called The Revenant about the life of Hugh Glass is exceptionally well done.
I hope they mention Jim Bridger.
Okay, we'll see.
Because Hugh was left with two men to watch him until he died.
Yeah.
Jim Bridger, and
he was one of them.
He was one that was supposed to stay with him. And I want to say Fitzgerald or
Fitzpatrick.
Fitzpatrick.
Something like that.
They left him.
They left
and took all of his stuff.
Yep. They gave him up.
His gun, his knife, everything.
I want to wish not Merry Christmas, but Happy Birthday wishes. I just was handed this note before we send it back over to Wheels at our main studio. Gene Gene Stelly and Becca Matthews and George Faulkner, along with our dear friend Dr. History Ken Turner. Happy birthdays this week. God bless you all. Happy New Year, happy birthday, and the very best. We're going to take a little break and come right back after these messages, and we'll be back in about 3 minutes. Thank you.
And now back to Zeb at the Ranch on AM 1230 KBAR. To reach Zeb, call 436-2244 or toll free 1-866-927-4587. And now, here is Zeb Bell.
Oh, thank you very much. I got to turn my mic on. I read that someplace. It works better if you do. We're here with an extended stay to Dr. History, and that was a great story on Jedediah Smith. And for those of you in the audience at home, we were just kind of sitting here comparing notes about mountain men and the similarities of their lifestyles, whether it was Jedediah Smith or whether it was Jeremiah Johnson or whether it was Hugh Glass. I mean, there was a lot of story similarities.
And really, the movie Jeremiah Johnson, his real name is John Johnson, by the way.
That's right. It was.
The movie actually is cleaned up compared to the book.
Absolutely.
The book is, if anybody's interested, the book is called Crow Killer. But the story of Liver-Eaton Johnson.
Yeah, Liver-Eaton Johnson. That was his nickname. And they never mentioned or alluded to that in the movie.
They didn't.
Not at all.
Like I say, they cleaned up the movie.
Yeah, they did. So. But now this new movie, and I'm not recommending people go see this movie. I'm not being an arm twister or anything. But the movie called The Revenant is a movie that was about Hugh Glass's life after he was abandoned by his fellow mountain men. And I have read outtakes about the movie and how it was made, etc., and they said that Leonardo DiCaprio absolutely insisted that everything remain exactly how it would have been had he been alive 200 years ago. And
Jim Bridger, as a new young mountain man, his first year or two out there, he and I want to say Fitzpatrick stayed with Bridger or stayed with Glass for about 2 days, 3 days, and he wouldn't die.
Yeah.
And so they finally figured, okay, he'll die tonight. There's Indians around us. We need to catch up with the other trappers.
They wanted out of there.
They did. And they couldn't leave without taking his gun, his knife, his blanket, his everything. Because if they appeared without his stuff, they'd say, hey, where's all of his gear? If he's dead, you should have brought that. And they did bring it. And that made Hugh Glass really mad.
And he lived off revenge.
He did.
Yeah.
He did. But it took several years before he finally caught up with Bridger.
Yeah.
And
don't give the ending away.
Okay.
Okay, don't give the ending away.
Okay.
All right.
He caught up with him. That's all I'm going to say.
That's all we need to say. Now, here we are at the end of 2015. It hasn't been an easy year.
Nope, it hasn't.
It's been a kind of a rough year, really.
Yeah. But, America is still, I've been in China, as I mentioned, for a couple of weeks, and it's a beautiful country and a lot of good things there, but America is still the land of the free.
And the home of the brave.
Home of the brave. And
but we can't let that diminish.
No.
And we've got to get up off our duffs and maintain that great heritage.
Well, I've mentioned before on this program, too, that I believe that we've seen God's hand in preserving this country from the very early days. Just for an example, there was a time in the history of the world that the Chinese actually had the largest fleet of ships in the world.
That's right.
They sent out a fleet of, I believe it was either 250 or 350 ships, and they traveled around the world exploring. Now, why didn't they discover America?
Yeah.
Why didn't they come and start colonizing America? Well, okay, good question.
God's hand at work.
And there were times when, during the Revolutionary War, that things just turned out right for the Americans.
Yeah.
Jamestown, for example. Those people had suffered tremendously. They'd been starving, killed. They were headed out. They were headed back to England.
And I was going to say that we had an opportunity not to be here at all.
Exactly.
They were so distraught at that juncture of losing so many people with diseases and the cold and a lack of food that their personality had completely changed. They weren't the gung-ho, we're in America now, we're going to start a new country, a new land. They were ready to boogie.
They were on the ship headed out.
That's right.
And because of a fog situation, they were a little slower leaving.
Yep.
And just by chance, in that huge area of the ocean, they found, I think it was 3 rescue ships.
Right.
Talked them into going back to Jamestown, and of course,
the rest is history.
Yeah, it is. So some amazing things that happened, and again, you look at our country.
Well, look at the Civil War. Well, preceding that, look at the Revolutionary War and all the intangibles from Fort McHenry and all the way to the end of the Revolutionary War, which was not really fought like a war at all that we think of today. And then think about what could have happened had the South won in the Civil War, and look at what's changed in our philosophy and our thinking in this country. In some respects, I'll say this, and I want to get your comment. I think that there is a cleansing process going on now with the liberals in our society, to where if they don't think it's right, they don't think it was fair, they don't think that it should have happened, they're trying to rewrite history and change it and cleanse it, and I'm not in favor of that at all.
You've just got to look back in history and learn from history, clear back into Europe. But I had a friend pose this question to me one time. He said, Ken, if you were in early America and you had a small farm, 3 or 4 kids, a few cows, would you have joined with the Americans in fighting against Great Britain? Or he said, what side would you be on?
Yeah.
And I've always said, well, I'd be on the winning side, of course. But then he said, well, wait a minute. Would you really want to jeopardize everything you've worked for years with the idea that you might not, that you may lose everything?
Everything.
And then the second question, what about the Civil War?
The same premise.
Which side would you be on?
There you go.
And again, I said...
And there were families split right down the middle.
Right.
Yeah.
And I said, well, I'd be on the winning side. And he said, well, now, wait a minute. You're looking at states' rights here, That'd be a tough question.
Let me ask you this, and you've seen this. It's been in the news and out of the news, and unfortunately back in the news again. But are you in favor of this cleansing as far as taking away the Confederate stars and bars from sales in stores, and for people to fly it, and for statues of Robert E. Lee to be replaced? I mean, I find that repulsive, because still the South and its heritage and its family lineage has a right to honor those that were part of their family.
I agree with that 100%. There's famous Indians, there's famous
Absolutely.
cavalrymen, there's famous generals, Custer. I mean, despite everything, he was part of our American heritage.
That's right.
Part of our American history. And to have statues and monuments across our country to remind us of these things, I think we need it.
But where do you draw the line on the cleansing and the purging of history? I mean, boy, once you've crossed that line and you say this is not acceptable, and what's so ridiculous is that you can buy a terrible, absolutely despicable ISIS flag on eBay, but you can't buy a Southern Confederate flag.
Oh, is that right? I didn't know that.
It's absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah. Well, for those that don't like America, that are complaining, and I say...
Have you been in the South quite a bit?
Not really.
I've
been down there a bit.
I have.
Yeah.
I've been down there a lot. I've done a lot of rodeos in that part of the country. And the family heritage, I'll use the term family heritage, is still very strong today for their relatives, their aunts, uncles, etc., that fought in the Civil War.
Well, and that's why I love history. I love reading about the stories of those that struggled so much to make it possible for you and I to live right here in this beautiful part of the country.
Yep.
I'm grateful for my ancestors that fought and died. I have an uncle who went down with his ship in World War II that I've never met. Some of my other uncles, and I know a lot of people out there listening, had relatives that fought for you and I to be here where we're at now.
Well, and look at today. I mean, mean, we've got our military all over the globe, and I'll say this, and I mean this, I think they are the least appreciated today than at any other time in our history, and I will do anything on this program to bring them to the forefront and get the recognition they deserve.
Just this past year, I was in Normandy,
right,
France, and the somber feeling of the graves there, and to look out over the beaches
must
where
have been eerie, I bet.
It was just a very interesting and again somber feeling to think of the sacrifices.
Yeah.
We went into one of the particular museums there that had a replica of one of the glider planes, and you walked in it, and there was the noise of the guns going off, and it was just an amazing thing to walk through and get maybe just a tiny glimpse of what those guys went through as they were getting ready to jump as paratroopers.
You know, you and I talked about this, but even going back further in our history to get a feeling for what happened, I told you one time on the show about the eeriness and the absolute kind of a frightening chill that we had when we visited the Custer battlefield late in the afternoon on an August day with the blustery clouds building up for a thunderstorm and everything. And I looked at my wife, and she looked at me and said, "Let's get out of here." It can really give you an eerie feeling.
You know, it really does. And if you've studied it like you and I have, to stand there and just up above and look down over the river and the valley and the hills and just try to somewhat imagine. Again, something that, unless you were there, I don't think we can truly appreciate it.
Do you think that today, and I'm going to put you on the spot here a little bit, we got about 6 minutes left, but do you think that today, and I'm going to blame education on this, I am going to blame education on this. I'm not blaming all educators, I'm not blaming all schools, but I am blaming education that our kids today, I don't think, appreciate because they have not been taught the sacrifices that have been given for them.
The thing that I grew up with and that you grew up with is we had teachers that were in World War II.
That's right.
My father was one of my teachers. He was in World War II in the Navy. I know that a number of the teachers that I had growing up were there personally. They saw it. And I think I don't know, maybe they tried harder to impart that vision of what fighting really was for our freedom. And we have a lot of great teachers now, I know we do, but they haven't actually lived through what our fathers and uncles and aunts did.
One of the, and I use this term for the man, and he is a great man, and that's Russell Smith, a dear friend of mine, a 3-time Purple Heart recipient, and now he has left his Burley residence, and he's up at the VA in Pocatello, and I really need to get up and see him. And when I had him on my program, and he was talking about getting on the beach at Normandy, and I don't want to sound gruesome to anybody, but it was so hard getting through the water with all the different bodies of his fellow soldiers, and finally on the beach and telling how absolutely you knew you were probably going to breathe your last. And then this man was wounded 3 times a Purple Heart recipient, and he wanted to keep on fighting for his country. And I hope we haven't lost that spirit.
You know, as I read different books and one thing is another now regarding Afghanistan and things like that, I see that in some of these books that I've read, that there's still that pride to be a Marine, to be in the Navy, to be whatever. I have a good friend, his son flies the, I can't remember what it is, the F-16, I can't remember what it's called, and he is dedicated, he loves what he's doing. He served in Afghanistan, flying these planes, and I'm grateful for those that are still have that feeling of, this is my country, and I'm going to fight for it.
But you know, I probably shouldn't bring politics into it, but it is a part of the equation, and it's a part of the puzzle right now that's missing. This administration has done, in my opinion, absolutely nothing to solidify a camaraderie and a fellowship and an appreciation for our soldiers, men and women that serve in the military. And there's been a diminishment of their value, and that's where I really get upset.
Well, we had that once before with Vietnam. and that the soldiers were not appreciated when they came home. Some were. Captain Larry Chesley was a prisoner of war for 7 years.
Yes.
When he came home to Burley, we had a parade, a presentation in the high school. He was treated as a true hero. And I still go along with... I can't remember which president said that walk softly and carry a big
Harry
stick.
Truman.
Harry Truman.
Harry
Yeah.
Truman, yep.
And I still agree with that I'd rather be prepared and not need it than
In order to have
not be
respect,
prepared.
in order to have respect, you have to earn it.
Yes, exactly.
And this capitulation that we're doing now, and this basically running, and I'll say that term, running from the enemy and the problem, is not gaining us any respect.
Yeah, I so much appreciate our military people. I thank my Heavenly Father every day that we've got people that are willing to put their lives on the line.
I got to tell you what happened 2 Saturdays ago. George Mass and his wonderful wife Donna and Deanne and I were at breakfast together at Denny's restaurant. Maybe you heard me say this already, but George had on his Navy veteran cap. And the waitress walked over, and she was taking our order, and all of a sudden she said to George, "Thank you for my freedom." And I about broke down and cried. It was beautiful.
Yeah. Well, despite the news and the media, I think there's a lot of us out here, a huge amount of us, that do still appreciate what they've done.
Yeah. Now, here we are, the end of the year, going into another 2016. You and I are getting a little bit more gray on the top and long in the tooth, etc. Anything on Ken Turner's bucket list that you're going to try to accomplish next year, 2016?
I've always wanted to go to the Calgary Stampede.
Ah, okay.
That's one thing, but I can't say that there's anything else. I mean, I've got a lot of things to do.
Both of us have been blessed because I think both of us have had the opportunities to go, do, and see.
Yes. Travel. I mean, I've been blessed. I've seen a lot of the country as you have, and still appreciate coming back to good old Burley, Idaho.
Oh, my goodness. I'm really glad, and I mean this, that I basically terminated almost all of my on-the-road contracts and everything. I just physically, I couldn't do it anymore as far as the running, going through the airports and everything. I'm glad that's over, but I had one heck of a good life for a long time. I'll tell you that.
You've seen a lot of the West and experienced a lot of the Old West, so to speak, really.
Well, not only that, but I've been on occasion when I had the opportunity to do the Olympics in 1996 in Atlanta, and then I was flown over to Jerez, Spain for the World Equestrian Finals. You meet all kinds of people, and it's really been a treat.
Well, and generally speaking, horse people,
best people in the world.
What can you say? But yeah. I can say that about golfing people too.
Huh? You're off. We're off the air? Wheels, what happened over there?
I'm not sure, sir. You're still on, but I can check.
Are we still on the air broadcasting, or are we just going through the phone lines?
You're still plugged in, and I have you on air still.
My wife says, no, we're not on the air. You better check it out immediately.
Okay, we'll do.
All right. We'll keep talking as if we're on the air.
Okay.
And I didn't notice any change. I haven't done anything here. So, Wheels, keep me informed. Are we on the air currently, or are we off? Deanne says that we are off. Evidently, he's checking. And maybe the snow hit a line or something happened. I have no idea.
Well, the roads are slick.
Yeah.
I mean, if somebody's trying to do too much and they hit a line or something,
Okay. Deanne, are we still off? Deanne?
Yeah. Still off, she said.
I don't know. I can't tell.
Well, that's weird.
Here. Is your radio, the batteries die or anything?
You're on air.
Okay. We are coming back. Evidently, it's something over here. We didn't experience a power outage. Well, we were sitting here kind of twiddling our thumbs for a few moments.
You've been on there the entire time.
Well, we didn't say anything wrong, so let's not worry about it. And as we roll along on the end, we thought that we had a warning that we were back off the air. Now we're back on the air. Thumbs up. Everything's going okay. Caller, real quick. You're on the air. Fast. I've got only a minute left. Caller, go ahead quickly.
I don't have nothing to say. You're on the air.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. I appreciate it very much. We didn't know, did we, Ken?
We're just carrying on.
Yeah, we were told we were off the air, then we're on the air, and we're back. God bless you, and Happy New Year, my dear friend.
Thank you, Zeb. You have a great New Year, too.
Well, I hope our story, we didn't get too far from it. We were kind of concerned that we were off the air. We were told we were, but we weren't. And God's blessings to you, my dear friend.
You, too, and your family. Thanks,
Thank
Zeb.
you very, very much. Appreciate it. Let's have the weather real quick, brought to you by Scarrows Meats, 331 North Road, Jerome. The number to call, 324-7657. And, of course, they've got the Harvest Bundle, 32 pounds of beef and pork and chicken, all of it delicious for just $79 plus tax. All of this from our friends at Scarrows Meats over in Jerome. And right now, here's Gina with the weather.
Here's your weather for this December 29th as we are making our way closer to 2016. We are expecting some snow showers off and on for today. Slightly on the breezy side. Winds out of the southwest right around 9 miles an hour. Expect a high of 21 tonight, low of 12. Tomorrow, cloudy conditions, high of 21 with an overnight low of 9. Looking at partly cloudy conditions for New Year's Eve day, high of 16 with an overnight low of 0. It's going to be cold. And then for New Year's Day itself, how about partly cloudy and 14? That's your weather for Zeb at the Ranch.
All righty, and thanks again to Scarrows Meats, 331 North Road, Jerome, and the Harvest Bundle for just $79 plus tax. Everything they sell is guaranteed, and it's guaranteed delicious. Well, we had a little scare. Thought we were off the air, but we're back on. Poor old Wheels, he's sitting over there with sweat dripping off of his forehead. What happened? Anything over there? What was it? Just a scare? We had kind of a dead spot over here. That's what we heard.
That's what it must have been, because over here, Gina told me that if we were off air, the alarm would sound, but I figured that you were still on air, but, man, you're right. I did get a little...
Okay, well, don't worry about it. Everything came out all right. We didn't say anything bad on the air. I didn't curse, yell, shout, or holler, so everything's okay.
And I didn't say anything, so I think we're golden.
All right. I'm olden, not golden. Anyway, let's just remind everybody about our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. All 7 locations serving you, and serving really is the key word. With all your snow tires, all the different treads, all the studded tires, all the snow wheels, all the tire chains. They've got it all for you at your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Also with the best brake value promise in the industry and professionally trained technicians that really know brakes. The best of front-end alignment, shocks and struts, batteries. Boy, you better check your battery. Cold days ahead. You better make sure you got a battery that's going to turn over that engine at your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. With, of course, Lane and Rupert, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike and Buell, Mike and Jerome, the Twist family in Paul, John on Poline in Twin Falls, and Randy, my old buddy, on Overland in Burley. The best. Wishing you and yours a very happy new year. Your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Also, thank you very much. You've been listening to Zeb at the Ranch. Make sure that you hear everything going into 2016. Contact Mount Harrison Audiology for a hearing screening. Call them at 312-0957. Wheels, did you find that song I was asking about?
Actually, sir, I did. I have it for you.
Okay, well, hang on just a minute. I want to issue this, and then we'll go out with that old Lang Syne this morning. On behalf of my lovely wife, Deanne, we say to you, may God bless you and keep you safe in 2016. Happy New Year from Goober and I to all of you. We'll see you next year, next Monday in 2016. But now, old Lang Syne.